Hey, everybody, and welcome back. George, can you believe we're here at the end of the fall season of 2025?
Yeah, PAS just happened. Bands of America just
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
Um, you watched all that.
Yeah, I was like, since it's been raining here in California, and I just kind of hung out at home, and I watched all 3 days worth of Bands of America from the crack of dawn till way after the sun went down. And I got to say, congratulations to Avon High School for winning the Grand National Championships. It was close because like Flower Mound was really good, Carmel was really good, Broken Arrow, Bentonville, all those groups are really good. It's a shame they don't give away a percussion award because it would have been interesting to see. But I think the consensus amongst people I've talked to was Marcus High School in Texas probably would have won that had they given away a percussion caption. But who knows? You know?
Is that Bill Bachman's school?
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys can hear that that voice in the background, but we have a very special guest here with us.
Yeah.
And, George, in the age of YouTube, there have been some pretty viral stuff in our world.
Yep.
And one of the more viral things, well, go ahead.
Well, it's funny. I would probably argue that from in the sort of the 2010s era, like up until COVID, there wasn't anybody that was more quote unquote marching band famous than our guest this week.
Yeah.
Introduced to the world via YouTube, but then went on to have a really long and exciting performing career with Blue Devils. Let's welcome Mr. Brandon Olander.
Welcome to the shop, Brandon.
Thanks,
Welcome
guys.
to the shop.
So, Brandon, you're here in Southern California. I take it you were here for some band stuff, maybe?
Yes. Yeah, the school I teach was supposed to play at the SCSBOA show, but all the shows this weekend got rained out.
Got rained out.
Yeah.
So, but still up here and visiting some friends and family.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks,
George. Yeah.
Thanks for reaching out and coming on. That was it was a nice surprise to get a message from you.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure. And just people who don't know, tell us a little about where you're from.
From Tucson, Arizona. I grew up playing some music. My dad plays a little guitar. My mom plays a little bit of piano. So they always encouraged me to do music stuff. And I started on guitar in, I think, second grade. I started getting lessons and did that for about 2 years. And then also our school district had a pretty good like fine arts program. It was called Opening Minds Through the Arts. So I was very lucky. Like elementary school, we had a music teacher who would come in, and I think kindergarten through second grade, we would learn random things, random instruments and the basics. And then in third grade, everyone learned the recorder.
Of course,
yes.
the legendary recorder.
And then in fourth grade, everyone learn violin. And then in fifth grade, that was like the first time you get to pick your own instrument. That was band. And so I remember at the end of fourth grade, our band teacher showing us all the different instruments that you could pick from for the next year, just to start thinking about it. And I remember him saying, oh, most people get their first choice instrument, but if too many people want the same instrument, maybe we'll have to do like an audition or something like that. And I had a crush on this girl for all of elementary school.
That's how it usually works,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing that she wanted to be in percussion. And so I remember thinking, okay, like I should get really good at drumming this summer so that I can guarantee that I'll be in percussion with her.
Hold on a second. I've heard a bunch of things about how people have gotten into this. This is a first.
Yeah.
I love it. So it's her fault.
Yeah.
All of this. All of this.
Yeah.
Great. Well, shout out to you, whoever you are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She knows. We went to school together, like all the way through high school.
That's
and
awesome.
I told her that, and she thought that was very sweet. Yeah. And so then that summer, I was actually visiting family in Japan, and was just on the computer on YouTube searching snare drum, drum line, drum corps, and then that's how I found DCI, found Blue Devils. Yeah.
So how old were you at that time?
I was 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at age 10, what was the video, if you remember, that hooked you to all this, that you would watch over and over again?
It's hard to pinpoint a specific video. I think the first DCI show I watched in full was Dev's 2003, Phenomenon of Cool. But there were a lot of videos. A lot of them were like the Vic Firth Blot videos, snare science videos, like kind of explaining different exercises and stuff. I think those were the big ones. And yeah, it was all very new to me. I didn't know what the lot was. I didn't know what DCI was. I thought the Blue Devils were from Duke University, all that stuff. So, but it was just all like this whole new world to me. It was so exciting. I thought it was like instantly, I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like I got to do this.
And where were you at with your playing at that point? Like what kind of stuff were you doing? Just like concert pieces? Like what kind of stuff were you, where were your hands at?
0. But I had some musical knowledge background from having played guitar and like growing up with like a fine arts program. So I knew the basics, like how to read music. And then it just happened that my uncle in Japan had a pair of drumsticks. He was like, yeah, I think I did drumline or something in high school. And he looked through his closet and found a pair of drumsticks. And so he gave them to me, and I just started practicing like on the rubber top of a chair or something.
Wow,
like that.
just like figuring it out on your own.
Yeah, I think but like yeah, the videos were a big help, and it was hard to find like beginner videos for snare drum, but I would just watch, how are they holding it? Left hand's different. Snare science, I think, was like maybe one of the big teaching tools. So I would like read the forums. I would look at the exercise. They had a list of exercises, and then DCI music. DCI music was too hard for me. So I was like looking at all the exercises, kind of trying to learn them. I think on the first day that I drummed, I tried learning double strokes. I think there was maybe a video explaining double strokes, and so I was like, oh, how do they do that? Like, oh, okay, you throw the stick once, but there's like 2 notes. So trying to figure that out was like one of the first projects I remember. And then I think they might have had a video about backsticking too. So I think backsticking was one of the first things also that I tried.
Exciting.
Yes.
In the world of sports, there's the term gym rat, which is somebody who's just always in the gym, practicing. Once you found like drum corps and percussion, is that how you were? Were you just like all day, every day?
Yeah. Yes. 10 years old, no responsibilities, summer break. So I would sit in front of the computer for like 4 to 6 hours a day and just drum.
Wow.
And it was pretty soon after we got back from Japan. My parents bought me like a practice pad and drumsticks. And just were, excited that I was that excited about something. Maybe not as excited about all the noise that was to come.
Was there, like Rob just said, he mentioned like the whole thing, the whole gym rat sort of psychology. Had anything been that for you before drumming? Like younger, were you obsessed or super interested in anything before that?
Not to that degree.
Okay.
I did some sports growing up, like soccer, baseball, basketball, and then played guitar. But none of them hooked me as hard to where I was that dedicated independently of practicing, doing the thing, going to all the rehearsals, practices, games, things like that. So it was like my parents were very, very, very supportive, are very, very supportive. I'm super lucky to have them, and they just tried as best they could to like let me and my sibling try to like try different activities and see what we were passionate about, what we really liked.
Were you playing drum set too, or is it mostly just like the marching concert stuff?
I started playing drum set probably after 4 or 6 months. I think we just got like one of the cheap electronic drum kits to try it out. And the first person I took lessons with, I think, was Jim Howell, as a local musician in Tucson. Plays like a lot of folk music now, guitar, and he was more of a drum set guy. And so I expressed like, I really like snare drum, I really like drum corps stuff, drumline stuff. He's like that, and he was supportive of that and tried to like show me some of the rudiments and other things that were applicable. But most of his stuff was drum set, and so I learned some basics from him. And then I think after I had been drumming for maybe also like in that range, like 4 to 6 months, I met my longtime teacher, whose name was Mark Leversedge, and I was just like drumming on a pad in a music shop, like a local music shop in Tucson, Instrumental Music Center, and one of the people working said, "Oh my God, like you're into that like drumline stuff? Like, have you met Mark? Mark did drum corps." And I was like, "What? That's so cool. That's the thing I see on the computer that everyone does." So introduced us, and then I just immediately started taking lessons with him, and then took lessons for 6 years.
Wow.
And
Where did he march?
He marched Blue Knights in '93,
Oh,
okay.
wow. Yeah. What did he play?
bass drum.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so Ralph, Glenn,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and Ben Moffmer, I think was a tech.
Yeah, you're talking our era. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Is
I
that
got to
it?
see that line.
Mm-mm.
That line in person was cool. One of the coolest drum solos of all time. The little green man.
I feel like, was that Jeff Queen's first year? Because he marched Vanguard at 92.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, I
his
think
first
Jeff,
year.
Jeff
Yeah,
was there. Yeah.
Wow.
yeah. And was Paul Stivett still there? Or was he?
I don't know. Because I feel like Paul was there like 91, 92.
I feel like he wrote that
my memory.
that cadence in '93. That street beat.
Oh.
The Scottish one.
The Scottish one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If no one's ever heard that, they played this real cool like Scottish cadence. I think there's a video on YouTube, audio of it, and it's really cool.
Cool.
Mhm.
But everybody you'd hear it and be like, "Wow, that's cool." Yeah.
Yeah.
So you finally found somebody to start deciphering
Mm-hmm.
this stuff for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mark was very supportive. And my dad loves to tell the story of like, Mark was very cool about my drumming. Like, that wasn't like, "You're so good," like gassing me up unnecessarily. But would just like, but I think probably saw like the potential in me, and that I was very, very excited about it, and that I was dedicating a lot of time to it. And he let me know about the first drumline that I ever joined, which was called Fusion Indoor Percussion. And that was based in Vail, which is just like 30 minutes southeast of Tucson. And they were an independent group because their school district had 2 high schools that were not big enough to have like their own drum lines. So they wanted to just combine. But then because of that, they had to register independent, and then anyone was able to audition. So there were some people who went to the university at the time who were in the drum line, and then I asked to join the drum line, or like showed up to the audition.
How old were you for that?
I was 11.
Had you seen any drum corps in person yet, or anything in person, or was this like just a new cold experience? Just right, going in cold.
So I marched. My first year was 2010 WGI season. So I had to have seen DCI in 2009. That was like my first outing to a thing, and that was So I went to the System Blue camp in Fresno that year. I had like seen it advertised online, like maybe on the Blue Devils website or something, and we were planning a trip up to California, just to LA area, just to see my aunt and stuff. And I like mentioned it to my dad, like, "Oh, I saw that the Blue Devils are doing this camp." He was like, "What?" Like, he was like, "Oh shoot, the one in Riverside we would have been able to, go to, like, but it's passed or something."
Mm-hmm.
But then he drove me to Fresno
Wow.
to go to that one. We like woke up early in the morning one Friday, and then drove up for the weekend.
Talk about supportive. That is not a short drive.
Yeah.
from
Oh
here.
no, we've done that drive, and it's like there's nothing easy about that drive either. Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Thanks,
This
Dad.
was 2009 or 2010.
This was 2009.
Okay.
So that was when I first met everyone at Devs, Scott, the whole drumline, all the people in the drumline at the time, and it was like the perfect thing for me because at the time I had no outlets for drumming. I think I also that summer Mark brought me to like his high school that he was teaching at the time and let me drum with them for their band camp, which was awesome. And they were all very cool. And I'm sure he told them like, "Hey, I have this young kid who loves drumming, can drum, so he's going to drum with us." And like, they all like were very, very supportive and just like helped me out, which was awesome. But the System Blue camp, that was like the start of everything. Was like, loved all the master classes and stuff with Scott and like the other techs, and then just seeing the Blue Devils drumline in person. And I knew like I knew who Keelan was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I knew anyone else specifically, but since Keelan was on YouTube, I was like, "Oh my God, that's him."
Yeah.
And seeing the whole drumline, I was like, "That's them." And then how I got personally connected to them was they were playing the Diddy remix, and I knew it. And so I was just like drumming it on my feet, like while we watched them. And Scott saw me doing that. And so he was like, you have to go up and play it.
And this was at the '09 camp in Fresno?
Yeah, yeah. So that one is not like viral or anything.
Oh, okay.
There might be a video of it. I'm not sure though.
Oh, wow.
But I went up and played the ditty with them, and they were like, "Who are you?" And yeah, so that's when I got to meet all them, everything, and
That had to be. I mean, I don't know, like if you were old enough to register this, but that had to be pretty validating. Like everything. It seems like everything along the way was like, yes, keep going.
yeah,
Kind of thing.
for sure. And then the end of the story that my dad loves to tell is like that he texted Mark, my teacher, and said, they just brought Brandon up to play with the drumline, and he like played this whole thing with them. And Mark was like, I knew it. I knew I knew he was that good. I knew he like, you know, had potential or was special or something.
Yeah.
So that was super validating and was like exactly the like spark I needed to just like keep going, or like, oh yes, I'm doing things right, or like I'm gonna keep following
Well, I mean,
this.
I think for a lot of people, they can relate to this experience of at some point it's a dream, right? Like you first get exposed to it and your mind is blown, but you know, for a long time it feels like a dream, and at some point there's a tipping point where you go, oh, this might actually be achievable. And having that happen again at a time when you do need that forward momentum is crucial. Because for a lot of people, they get the opposite, where they feel like this is never going to happen for me.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty amazing that you were able to go out and at least get that validation at such a critical time in your, because you could have been discouraged, you know, and then like decided, oh, let me do something else.
Yeah.
You know, so that's pretty fantastic to hear.
Now, so after that, did you go back and did you get to like drum with the high school after that next year? Because I know here at times I know of a kid who was 13 years old, but he played with the high school line because he was that good. And did that get to happen for you at all, or you're just there still just on a pad being the pad warrior?
Like what grade were you in after that?
Sixth grade. I went into sixth grade. But then my outlet after that was the indoor drum line.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And then the high school, so they let me drum with them for their band camp. And then when they would have sectionals, like just the drum line by themselves, like I would also go and like play with them and like learn the music with them. And that was just like for fun for me. Like, I wasn't like part of the marching band or anything. But that was like the thing, like, you know, the weekly or like bi-weekly thing that I would like look forward to. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I get to like practice drumming with like these older kids and, you know, work on my skills. And then that led into the independent drum line, and that was the first group I was actually part of. And it was just like so cool. And it was like the first time I felt that like ownership of like, oh, okay, I'm in this drum line, and we can like, you know, it felt like, oh, we can do anything, like that. The world is like our oyster.
Yeah. So the next year you go back and you do the System Blue Camp. It was that in Fresno again, or was that here in
No,
Riverside?
that was in SoCal. Because it just made more sense because we live closer to here. So that year we just timed it right, or like I told them ahead of time so that we could come to it. And people remembered who I was, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we missed you in Fresno this year, but yeah, glad to see that you're here."
Were you counting the days down until that you can come back and do the System Blue thing again?
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely like the big thing that I was excited about, and it was like, oh my gosh, get to see the Blue Devils again. See, you know, all the drummers that I know, and like that they're so cool, and like just see everyone again and get to drum for 2 days on end, 3 days on end.
So how did the viral video go down?
So Scott was kind of joking with me like the whole camp, like, do you know the drum break yet? And I was like, no. And then when they're just in the battery arc out there, and Scott jokingly said, like, Brandon, do you know the opener? And I said, yeah. I just knew it because Arizona was maybe like 2 weeks into the tour, or sorry, SoCal. must have been like 1 or 2 weeks into the tour.
But there were already videos out.
There were videos out. And so I watched the videos and watched the videos and watched the videos over and over and over. And I was like, I think I can transcribe this. And I don't know if I don't know if that was like the first thing I transcribed, but I definitely been just like consuming enough where I'm starting to get the pattern recognition of like, oh, this sticking, oh, that rhythm, like things like that.
So, time out real quick. So you know, you're saying transcribe. So you're telling me at the age of 11 and 12, are you physically writing down the snare music?
I think I did, yeah.
Wow.
Which yeah, is just like I had prior musical knowledge.
Okay.
Through band stuff, and then getting to be in a drum line, and getting to play with the high school drum line was super big. And then when I wasn't doing that stuff, I was still like at home after school on the computer watching videos and like learning licks. So trying to like get my capacity up for like, oh, how fast of a roll can I play? Like, how fast of a paradiddle diddle can I play? Oh, this has this weird rhythm. Have I tried that before? So yeah, it was just like pure like curiosity and like wonder. And so yeah, I just like was like eating it up as much as I could. So that's what like led me to be able to even like try to transcribe it.
That's cool. So before I rudely interrupted you there, you're telling us about the video, how it went down, and Scott asked if you knew the opener. So, okay.
And I said, yeah, like kind of sheepishly. And he was like, oh my God, get up there. And so we play, yeah, I think, so we might've played the opener first. But then they also knew that I knew the ditty. So they were like, you gotta play the ditty. And they're like, do you know Beady Flams? I was like, yeah. They're like, you gotta play Beady Flams. And that was like, yeah, the like recorded video.
So you had a great time at that clinic, but then that video gets posted, right? And goes viral, for lack of a better word. Was that in your awareness at all, that all of a sudden you were that kid?
At some point, yeah. At some point, like, video came out. It's like, oh, wow, people are watching this. A lot of people were watching this. Yeah, I don't know how long it took or anything. And I didn't know, that would translate into other people knowing who I was or anything. And that also, I was just a kid, and that was not like
not your focus.
Not my focus at all. So it was just like a fun thing that happened at the time.
After that, was it time then to audition for drum corps, or did you have to wait a little bit still?
Still had to wait. I was 12 then, and I marched 2010 through 12 in that independent drum line. That was kind of through like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then after that was like able to do high school marching band and drum line. Yeah. So, and I think it was around 8th grade. I started going to auditions just because it was fun and was another chance to just drum for a weekend. So I think I went to auditions for the 2011 drum line, and then for the 2012 drum line.
This is Blue Devils.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just like the SoCal auditions.
Yeah.
So they're more low key, and it would just be like 1 or 2 of the techs who came down, but it was still just fun for me, and I was like soaking up all the information. I thought it was like so cool. I started to meet some drummers that way too. I met Henry Gillard, and at the 2010 System Blue Camp, Zach Olander was there, Donovan Alanis was there.
As students, as prospective members.
Yeah.
At the Fresno, I think at the very first one I went to, Joey Staub was there as a student. So it's like, crazy small world. All these, just different web of people meeting in different times.
Well, starting to become part of the community.
Yes, yeah. Which is exactly what it is.
Aside from the Blue Devil stuff, was there any other licks or group cores that you liked, or was it just all Blue Devils?
Blue Devils was the big one, and I feel like part of that was just that they had like the most media online. Like there was like the video of them playing to Hey Ya. You guys remember that one?
Yeah.
And
wasn't that the hip hop drum line?
Yes, something like that. So like they had a couple like viral videos. I feel like like in the
I know some
early,
of those. I know a
YouTube.
few of those guys. Yeah.
And so because of all those, and they had Vic for Lot videos and like some other BD entertainment videos, like videos of like Casey Brohard, like just like going crazy,
Sure.
or like the other early 2000s drummers. just playing like crazy solos and stuff. So because of that, it was mostly Blue Devils that I had like was like, this is the one. But I liked everything. I watched like Coats, Cadets, Bantam. Like those were the big groups at the time. I feel like oh eight to 10, 11 time. And as I got exposed more to it, I was exposed to like, oh, there's all these drum corps. There's the Academy is like the Arizona Drum Corps, like they're in Phoenix, like not that far away from me, and like learning about all this stuff. So went to Blue Devils auditions, went to auditions for Academy for like 2011, 2012. And yeah, just again, because it was like I just wanted to do more things, and turned out that I was very lucky to get to do those things because I made connections with people early on. Like 2011 was when Murray Gussick and Glenn went to Academy, so got to meet them. And Academy had like a trainee program, so it was like if you were cut from the Corps, you could still come on like Sundays of all the winter camps, and like one of the instructors would come and give you like a master class.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
that was awesome.
That's cool.
Learned from Murray, learned from Glenn, Rick Barclay also. Yeah, and then the Blue Devils auditions met Sean Vega and Tim Terry and the other people teaching at the time, and yeah, same thing. Just got to get direct feedback from them, direct one-on-one time with them, so they got to know me as like, this is the kid who's like drumming really well and is really excited about it. So yeah, that was all awesome.
Those Academy times, what did you take? What did you learn from Murray? Did any of that? Do you still use any of that? Or during that time, let's talk about that a little, because Murray's Murray. It's
A legend.
yeah, and I just feel like he has a different way, probably, of teaching. And was there like a big difference from the Murray teaching and what you learned at Blue Devils?
Just a little bit. The things that he focused on. Obviously, it's like, I feel like if you could to sum it up quickly, but it's not, doesn't do it justice, but just like the more relaxed, like kind of similar to drum set approach. So it was like very like open front fulcrum, and he showed us like finger yoga, stuff like that. It's like learning kind of like, oh yeah, how do your different fingers interact with the stick? Yeah, I think just like that more flowy early Vanguard approach was some of the stuff I learned there. And actually in Arizona at the time, Vanguard was very popular. That was like the approach that many drumlines like defaulted to in Arizona.
Like in the schools.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In the schools. I think like ASU and U of A drumlines also same thing. Like everyone played on a tilt, was playing kind of like the Vanguard approach because that was what was really popular at the time.
Yeah, it's interesting how those Vanguard lines still influence things.
Yeah.
Through these days, you watch a line, it's like you could see that influence. But it's interesting to hear your take on learning from Murray, because I was always kind of curious about that.
Yeah, well, I think, part of that, I've talked about this before, but part of that is there are a lot of aspects to, what he prioritizes, what Glenn prioritizes, those guys, that is very reachable at a young age. Whereas other stuff that might feel like there's more of a threshold before you can even attempt to do that stuff. So that totally makes sense. And also, since you were also playing drum set, that probably resonated with you, like a lot of the stuff they talked about.
Yeah, for sure. As a kid, I was more like, I want to be in Blue Devils, so I want to play like the Blue Devils. So learning other things feels like sacrilegious a little bit. But in retrospect, it's like it was good for me. And there's like things I really took from that.
Did they respond to you the same way the Blue Devils people responded to you?
Yeah, pretty much. Or not. Yeah.
It's like, oh, here's this young phenom or prodigy, kind of thing.
Yeah, they definitely supported me and tried to encourage me, like, just keep drumming, like you're doing great.
Yeah.
There was not like a one-to-one thing like the Blue Devils and like the media, like just the eye on Blue Devils in the same way. But they actually on Memorial Day, Academy does like a little fundraiser dinner with like alumni and stuff, and they asked me to play a solo to kind of showcase like, oh, we have this trainee program, and look at how good it is. Like this kid, all the trainees are this good. I don't know. And so I wrote a solo for that snare drum solo, and Rick Barclay, we did like a one-on-one for a couple hours with the solo, and he was like, oh yeah, like this is cool, like try this, like you should play this louder because this is like the climax moment, stuff like that. So that was really cool. And like, yeah, we it was just funny, like we didn't stay in touch or anything, but then Rick started teaching at RCC, and I was like, that's the guy who taught me, helped me with my solo for the trainee thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So after that video goes viral, now is the time when you're starting to do the academy and going to these auditions. Did people recognize you after that?
People started to recognize
Did
me.
it get weird at all?
No.
That's cool.
It was pretty much just like, you're that kid, right? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Also, people were generally older than me, so I feel like it was not, it was hard for them to be weird or like competitive or combative. It was mostly like, oh, that's cool, like come drum with us, which was, meant the world. And
were people trying to take like selfies with you with their flip phones? Because that's what was probably the thing back then.
Probably at some point. I don't remember much though.
When did we have that conversation at the Walnut Show? What year was that?
I think that was 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
And I remember it was mostly a conversation between me and your dad, talking about, okay, what is the practical reality of when you're going to be ready to march? Because there's the being able to play it, but as everybody knows, drum corps is a very physical activity, and we wanted to, like, I think everybody was invested in like you actually being introduced to it and being able to acclimate to it in the right way. But then also, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but a big part of that conversation was essentially saying that, don't worry, Brandon will be taken care of. These places will take care of him. Blue Devils will take care of him. Academy will take care of him. Because as a parent, having your son or daughter, sending them off for the summer to live on the bus and sleep on gym floors and stuff, especially at such a young age, when was that time when it was like, okay, we're ready to actually do this for real? What was your first year at Academy?
My first year was 13 at Academy, and I had been going to auditions for Academy since 11, and Blue Devils I think also since 11 or 10, just for fun. And it was kind of seen as like, oh yeah, he's here just for fun. But I started to I was like, I want to march.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm ready. Like I drum so much. I know, like I have an idea of how good I am. And so, I think 2012 was what the first year it felt potential. I went up to the NorCal auditions for Blue Devils because I knew that was like the more legit audition. And so that was like with Keelan, Nick RC, like the whole drum line that year, and people I really looked up to and admired, but like drumming alongside them, and like kind of like getting a sense of the competition of the audition. And I did really well, and they told me like, your hands are good enough, which was very cool to hear, very very affirming. But you're still not, you're still just a kid. So I was like, yeah, I wasn't happy about it, but makes sense. But in 12, I got a call back to Academy. So that felt potential. But I also, I think I was like, I'm not ready because I was an 8th grader. So,
Wait, you're telling me you weren't ready in 8th grade? How was that? No, I'm just kidding.
And Academy was like, I think that callback was when like my eyes were open to like how physically demanding it was. They just did a lot of stuff to like physically challenge us or like physically like weed people out. So I was like, oh shoot, I'm probably not ready. They also marched Mapexes, which were insanely heavy back in the day.
Well, those are the child of Jupiter drums, and the Jupiter drums were extremely heavy back in the day.
And then in 2013 was when I really wanted to make a serious go of it. And I think I really took to heart what they had said about like, you need to be physically ready to march, to march a drum and to like carry a drum, and you need to be physically fit and active. And so I took that to heart and worked out a lot, marched with a drum on a lot, tried to get used to it. I was, still tiny, still am just a small person to this day, but got better at it and tried to bulk up a little bit. And in 2013, I sent an email to Scott saying like, hey, like I'm really excited for auditions this year. I'm really hoping to be like seriously considered. I'm like, doing all this stuff, drumming, working out, like trying to be ready for the drumline. And he emailed me back and was like, Brandon, you're still too young. Like we definitely need you to march somewhere else first. It just wouldn't make sense. And I was like pretty devastated by that. Cause in my mind I was ready.
In your mind, you're at the age where you could do this and you're set to go.
But I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, and at this point, this has been a journey, like a multi-year journey.
Yeah, already. Yeah.
For you.
So I felt, I was like, like what can I do? And so I just like doubled down my practice and exercising and marching so that I could show them like I am ready. And so I went to the December camp and played as well as I could have. And they said like, you look bigger too. Like you really showed us, like definitely like you just need to march somewhere for like a year probably and you'll be ready.
How old were you in 13?
I was 15.
Okay, so your first year in drum corps, you're 15 years old?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so then, so went through that experience at Blue Devils, and they were also like, we want you to come back to the callback camp just to see what it's like, so that you know exactly what it's like, what all the visual responsibilities are, what it's going to feel like, and then you'll be like even that much more ready for next year or the future. So that was really cool. I got to do that. At the same time, I did the academy audition and got a callback there, and I'm pretty sure the academy callback was the weekend before Blue Devils callback. And so I got a contract at academy, and I think I just emailed and asked like, hey, I got invited to the Blue Devils callback too. Like they told me I'm not going to make it. They just wanted me to come for the weekend. Is that okay? And they said yes. So that was like kind of the best outcome for that year.
Who was teaching at academy at that time?
So Ike was the caption head. And then Drew Guy was kind of the battery coordinator, and he's like the person we spent the most time with. Nathan Medina was another snare tech. I think those were the main snare people. Michael Cooper was the quad tech, and Nick Hasso was one of the bass guys.
Yeah, I know Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Jenny Jackson taught cymbals.
Okay. What did you learn that year marching academy that helped prepare you for the Blue Devils that next year?
Mm-hmm. Am I allowed to use a swear word?
Yeah.
On this
Yeah,
podcast?
go ahead.
So I have a friend who describes everyone's first year of drum corps as getting their shit rocked, and that's what happened to me. Yeah. And and I think especially anyone who's marched like that first year, it's like culture shock of like, oh my god, 12 hours a day, every day, 3 months.
Also in the Arizona, like at that early season in the hot sun.
Yeah.
In Arizona.
Yes.
What's the term academy uses? Heat forged.
Heat
Something?
forged.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've only heard, but if you're going to march in a Drew Guy battery, you're going to work.
We worked
for sure.
We worked very hard. We did so many reps of everything. And I was that boggled my mind. It was like more than my mind could comprehend. I had done high school marching band. I had done an independent indoor drum line. We were in open. But the sheer volume of reps we did was, I could not have understood before doing it. Yeah. And it was outside, and we wore the drums all the time, to get used to it.
But at least it was a dry heat, right?
The year before I marched academy, we heard that there were days where the police would come out and tell them to stop rehearsing because it was too hot. Because it was 120 probably.
They need an indoor rehearsal facility there.
Yeah,
that's the place.
Is that even a thing in Arizona? Indoor rehearsal facilities?
Yeah, there's some of those. They're definitely energy intensive to run because it's so hot outside. But yeah, people are pretty heat conscious in Arizona.
Did you ever hit a wall? Were there any
Oh, yeah.
Were there any points where you were just like,
Day 3.
Wow. Whoa.
Day 3, I was crying and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Called my dad. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It's just so intense. I'm in so much pain. This is so much harder than I thought anything could ever possibly be. And so my dad drove up to Phoenix and like was like there with me for a little bit, and that made me feel better. And then got through day 3, got through day 4, and it was like, I think I maybe can do this, but it's going to be really, really freaking hard. And Mark, who I would text with all the time, told me like, it's never easy, but every single day gets easier. So, yeah, that was my first wall.
Wow.
That was the Drum Corps Bride show, correct?
No, that was
Oh, okay.
2016. Our show in 2013 was Piano Man.
Piano Man. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back.
It's kind of forgotten in the history books.
A lot of really good people in that line, though.
Yeah, lots of great drummers.
Like Evan Esponto was in that
Evan
line?
Esponto I stood next to. Seth Liggins was to my other side. He went on to March Cavies. Will Edmonds was in the line. He went on to March Cadets. Zach Olander was in the line. Luke Vogt was my bus partner. He went on to March Blue Knights. Tristan Gilbertson was in the bass line. He did Pulse, some other things. Yeah.
Yep.
You're doing Academy. What was it like when you got to see the Blue Devils guys at shows?
It was awesome.
Were they like, "Hey, Brandon, there you made a core"?
Yeah. And it was cool to see them, and the instructors too. I tried to make a point to like, when's our first show with Blue Devils? Like, I'm gonna go say hi to Scott. Be like, hey, see, I'm marching. See, and I saw him, saw Nick Arcee, and that part of it. The social aspect was like the best part. Obviously, like marching drum corps, building that like camaraderie with the people that you're with in your group, and then also getting to see other groups. You don't get that as much at like a top 5 corps, getting to see other groups, but that is such a fun part. And every night we got to see Blue Devils and Crown, and those two shows are like so good. And yeah, getting to watch like the battle between them all season was awesome.
Was there anything surprising other than the hard work? Because it's one thing to look at it from the outside and sort of you think you know what's going to happen, but then, I mean, part of the reason why everybody was like, you need to march 1 year, you know, get a year under your belt is so that you can now know the things. Was there anything like surprising that you know, you learned, like you did not expect to learn, but you learned that year?
I don't know if there was anything as much as the just pure amount of hard work. And yeah, like there was like the moment of like, there's levels to this. Like, this is not like your high school marching band. This is not like your, you know, local independent drumline. This is like the big leagues, and people treat it that way. I think, like instructors and other members too, even though it's like corps are in different, you know, maybe like tiers of where they kind of competitively place, like everyone's still treating it like you are trying to be the best in the world. And that seeps into everything, the rehearsal, the expectations as far as like traveling and, you know, all days, doing all the rehearsal, all that stuff. Yeah. So I don't know if anything beyond that surprised me so much. I think I was just happy to be there much of the time. And also like interpersonally, like I knew, you know, it's going to be a group of 150 young people and you're not going to get along with every single person. And that's like, okay. And ways to deal with that. I feel like I'm generally a pretty easygoing person, non-confrontational person too. So that helped with getting along with others.
But that's, I mean, that's definitely something. It's like put 150 people together, and then you add the staff on top of that. Interpersonal dynamics, just a soup, right? Of all these social dynamics going on. Part of being just the age that you were is learning how to navigate that stuff.
Yeah. And I think in general, people were very supportive and helpful to me and wanted to help guide me since I was younger. And, you know, it's not like they left me out to dry or were particularly like aggressive or hostile or anything like that. It was just like all supportive.
Was there any negative aspect to this building narrative that you were basically destined to march Blue Devils? So they could have easily looked at it at like, you know, the folks at Academy, like we're just renting Brandon for a while and this is just a stepping stone for him. Was there any of that that you could feel?
Not
during
in
that time?
not in like a serious way.
Okay.
There's, jokes and like comments about it, but mostly like in good fun or just off the cuff. Not with any like malintention. And like Drew asked me to come back, or during the season they were like, you should come back. Like, everyone, it's like we want to build the program, and like the more people that stay, the better the program will become, which is super valid. And I totally understand that as, teaching at smaller programs. And there was like, and there were like rumors of like other corps that perk staff was potentially going to go to the next year. And they were like, come on, wouldn't you like to march this corps? It's like, oh, in my head, I was like, I don't know if I could ever possibly do another season of this in this intensity of marching and playing and rehearsing. So yeah, I had it pretty much decided in my head. I was going to do everything in my power to like make devs the next year. But like, yeah, at the end of the academy season, I came away with like mostly good feelings and like glad that I had did it. And especially, just like the relationships with people were very, very lasting.
After that first year, you're done, and you went back to high school. You did in the high school band too, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like going back and being in the high school band after doing a year of drum corps? Were you like a typical kid, like probably how George and I were, and it's like a million degrees outside wearing your drum corps jacket everywhere?
I tried not to be. I think my parents also really stressed like humility and like you don't need to tell people like who you are, how good you are, like just do your thing, and also like support other people in the way that you were supported. And so, I kind of knew going back that it would be different, that it was, the expectations are totally different in high school marching band, the level that people are at and like people's desire to be there is just different. And so I tried my best. But like in retrospect, I was still probably a little bit like that kid who did drum corps, and was like bringing like the intensity of it and stuff. But my best friends were my high school marching band friends, and it was not like I was like talking down to them or like wanting them to.
They kept you grounded.
More. Yeah, they kept me grounded, and and I was just happy to be with them and to drum and like help our band get better as like a as a lead like a leader from within the group. That was I was like, okay, this is what will get the best result. Not like me like yelling at people like, why aren't you good? Why don't you care? Why aren't you good? Like it's like helping people the same way that I was helped.
So it's 2014. You did a year of academy. This is the year you're ready. You're ready. You did the year like they told you somewhere else. You go up to Blue Devils. What was that like in 2014? That audition experience.
It felt high stakes for sure to me, but I was lucky that I was able to go to so many devs auditions before that, and so it did not feel unfamiliar. And I think like I tell people this too with like performance anxiety or stage fright, like the feeling never goes away, like the butterflies in your stomach, like accelerated heart rate, that doesn't go away. You just get used to what it feels like, and then you just do your thing anyway. Or you're like, okay, and I know what it feels like to still like drum the way I want to, even though I'm like feeling really intense in the moment.
It's interesting though, because you had this long running relationship with devs. It's almost like bad analogy, but like you're talking to a girl for a really long time, and she's like, well, yeah, at some point, we'll be together. It's almost like at that point, Blue Devils was now put to a decision. Is Brandon ready? And is everything that everybody thinks is going to happen and wants to happen, is now the time for it to actually happen?
It's time to get out of the friend zone.
It's time to get out of the friend zone and get into a relationship. Maybe you didn't know it then, but did you get any insight into how they decided, okay, Brandon's ready now?
Yeah, I think some of the members told me afterwards, and since then they do this with all the vets, is they'll ask the vets like, who's your 9? Like who do you guys want in the line? And that can be, that's based on all of their, everyone's different perspective of like, what do they think? What do they see when this person's drumming? What do they, and like marching. And then also like the interpersonal interactions, like, did you have a weird feeling about this person, or like this person's kind of a jerk? Those kinds of, like, all those factors are kind of taken into account by hearing what everyone has to say. And all the vets that year, there were 6 returners, I think, for 2014. And so that we were basically competing for 3 spots. And every returner had me as one of the 3 spots. So that was, when they told me that afterwards, that was like very affirming.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Like it was not so much like a on the fence thing, but more of like, everyone agrees.
How old were you at that point?
16.
Okay.
What was that first year like for you in Blue Devils, now that you've stepped up to a different core than...
Like literally you're
what you
crossing a
before?
threshold,
Yeah.
this magic threshold that had been, that you had sort of set for yourself years before. What was can you remember what it was actually like to be like, okay, I'm here now?
Yeah. Definitely surreal, and like at first at first it was like, what? Like this does not feel real. But quickly it was like, okay, like we're getting to work. Like there are these things that I still need to work on in my drumming that are not as good as everyone else. Like playing in the sound. That was my big thing, was like, most of my drumming time ever had been on a pad by myself. So my rhythms were really good. I could play to a metronome, awesome, but I was out of the sound all the time. So there was, that was like humbling, and the physical, like just marching. Not only do I need to march like a Blue Devil. I need to like look as good as the Blue Devils do when they're marching.
Let's stop for a second and talk about this. How do you, if you're out of the sound, how do you work on that? Is it something that you could only work on with other people and like the line there, so you had a reference, or were there concepts that you were trying to embrace, like, or what were you trying to do to actually like improve on that in that particular aspect?
Yeah, it's one of those things that's hard to replicate without a line to play with, or without another person to play with, and trying to match them. Not just, it's hard. I think if you're used to playing by yourself, it's hard not to be headstrong about where the tempo is, about the interpretation of different rhythms. So being more proactive or responsive to how is someone else playing, and am I playing it the same way as them? Can I predict where they're going to go, or are we like going 2 different directions, and then at some point you can hear that it's dirty by the difference in the sound. For me, it was like I just needed to play lighter and listen more. Like at Academy, our approach was very like heavy touch, like very into the head all the time. And so it was hard to like let go of that. And especially being towards the end of the line, it's like that's like your responsibility is to listen in and blend. So I definitely learned how to play lighter at Devs. And
that's, I just want to pause for a second. I think a lot of people would find that crazy. I mean, it's like specifically like when from the outside. This is why I love having these conversations, because from the outside, people would be like, "Wait, you had to play lighter, to be in that line?"
Yeah. Yeah. I think I came into Devs around the time that philosophy started to shift, and the approach was not the same as the late aughts and like early 2010s, where they were also playing pretty aggressive and into the head. Like 2014 was the first year that Nick Arce talked about twitching as like, just like efficient legato strokes. What does that mean? Like how much effort do you really need to give for like your low legatos? And that was like a very foundational part of our playing. We also, and that was also functional because we had a lot of like long repeated phrases. We had like the jump, 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 like all the left hands in a row, which that lick at first was supposed to be at like 130. And then it was at 168, like when we got to the summer. So learning all that, learning that kind of new approach, I think was a little different than how Devs was playing before that.
Were the technique differences, I know you're talking about it now, was it hard to switch from playing one way to going back to playing the Blue Devil way to all the camps that you went to?
Yeah. And that was like the big thing for me was like, you need to learn how to do this skill. It's like you have all the other stuff, right? I have the rhythm accuracy, I have the chops to do it, but it's like it doesn't matter if I can't figure out this, like, how do I play with another person, like responding to them, deferring to them. And then my high school also played matched, so it was like switching back and forth from between different things, grip and touch approach to, and yeah, like being, in the center of a 5-person snare line in high school versus like being on the end at devs. Yeah, but it was again, one of those things that's like, instructors were very good with feedback and like specific feedback of like, that was not in the sound. Try this. Okay, that was much more in the sound. What did you hear? What did you feel? Okay, try to replicate that. Remember that. That kind of process, which I think was very important for me, and I think went on to like influence my teaching of like, not assuming that someone wasn't doing something because they were choosing not to do it, but because they didn't know how, or they didn't have the language or capacity to exactly replicate it or reproduce it.
That's huge. Even though you're giving them the quote unquote right information or the information necessary, you still have to process it. You still have to, who were the main people on staff? You mentioned RC. Who else was there sort of helping you, crucial to helping you navigate that stuff? And was there anybody else in the line that helped you?
Yeah, I think Nick was the big person who was kind of instilling these questions in us, in like, how are we playing functionally, like mechanically with our hands, and what is the effect of those things on the output, which is like the sound we're producing, the rhythms we're creating. Is it together? Is it not together? And that's like a lot of the sound differences or dirt had a reason for them, like mechanical deficiency, or that just, like difference in approach, touch, velocity, like grip on the stick, all those variables. That there was like a causal relationship there. So that was important for us. And like we spent that summer, I feel like most of the people on the line, even the vets, people who had marched 12 and 13, I feel like especially all days, I just have memories of everyone kind of just like going like this all the time, and like really trying to figure out like, oh, okay, like how's my wrist moving on both hands without sticks in our hands? And we would just like compare and like talk about it all the time. So that was really cool to be like, to go through that process. Obviously I was younger, but then even like the guys who had, won drums in 12, one overall, and then marched in 13 too, like they were still like, okay, there's some things I can still figure out.
That's actually like a nice, it's kind of nice that happened, because everybody was having to adapt, even the people that were, even the vets were having to do that. So you kind of like, we're all in this together kind of thing.
So you march 2014, you guys win everything. You go back to high school, right? Are you a senior now?
No, I was a junior.
So you win DCI. You go back to high school as a junior. Was that kind of weird at all? Because here you are, a DCI champ, and you're like a junior in a high school band. Did people? I know you said earlier that everybody was cool with you at school. Really, things didn't change. Did things change then, or like you go to these high school band competitions and these people are recognizing you? Did that happen at all?
Yeah, people recognized me more and more. Especially after I started marching devs. But my friend group in high school, I was maybe lucky that they would keep me humble too. They were like, just always joking with me about it. Like they did not think that much of it. I mean, obviously they like knew that it was special, but they did not treat me any differently. My friend, because my friends, the people I was in the drumline with, treated me like I was just one of them. That made it easier to just be myself and do the marching band thing and not be weird.
What was it like at these band competitions you'd go to and people would recognize you? I mean, even the instructors must have recognized you, right? Did they talk to you at all? Anybody try to just chat it up with you, or did they want to throw down with you in the lot to see how good you are?
I don't know if I've drummed with anyone in the lot like that. But definitely just like talking to, saying hi, or just like Brandon, like shouting from a distance or something like that. Which is, it's like, it's 99% of the time is like fine and like cool, and saying hello to people and them being excited. That's fun. I think the only thing that was like bad ever was just when I was teaching and kids would come up to me while I was in the middle of a rep of like warming up the drum line, and they'd be like, "Hey, can we get a picture?" And it's just like, oh, just not now, just like in a few minutes. But not like, I feel very lucky. Like the community was, and just people, even people who are like fans, like very on the whole respectful and kind. And I'd try to extend the same like kindness to them, or the excitement that I felt for like my heroes, like Keelan, like meeting Keelan, what that must have been like. I try to think of like, okay, it feels very important to this person, even though maybe I've talked to other people today, or like other people who wanted a picture or something. Try to just extend the same kindness to them.
What about online? Because online discourse, right? There's like the in-person thing.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
But I'm sure that, the narrative was going crazy. Like Brandon's finally in the line.
Mm-hmm.
Did that enter your awareness at all? Did you feel that at all, that was going on?
Just a little bit. I think only as much as any person marching will like look at what people are saying about their drumline. And I think even then, like only a small, as maybe, only a small amount of the comments were about me specifically in the 14 line. We had not a great start to the season. We were like pretty dirty for a while, and our drums were very articulate. Like the whole thing that year was like tuning drums as high as we could. So
Yes.
Dude,
I love it.
this is what we need to talk. We'll get into this a little while, because I just had
for sure.
a whole chat about
Mm-hmm.
how drum tuning has gone way down. Like
yeah. And so like the bottoms were at a D, and then the tops were as high as we could take them. Pretty much, they felt like concrete most days. And
those were the pearls.
Yeah.
And so
crispy.
So
high and tight.
High and tight, and it's I think like
that's the way.
Because of that, there was like no room for error, and we were pretty good, but I was young.
So you really needed to play in the sound.
Yeah. So that was and it took a while to figure it out for everyone, not just me, thankfully. But that was like the thing I remember from online, was like the first few weeks of tour. It was like, man, Blue Devils are dirty. Like they're not achieving as well as they're scoring, stuff like that. And that was and not never to the point of like hate comments or like stuff like that.
Good.
But just like things that like fueled the fire, being like,
that's funny that you say that.
Fix this.
That's funny you say that about 2014, because I feel like the comments at the beginning of 2015 or 2025 were like that for Blue Devils.
Yeah.
All the memes and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question that sort of harkens to, like we talked a little bit before we came on. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's you shouldn't assume what people want to get out of something, why they're doing it, right? This is something you wanted for a long time, and you finally got to experience it for the first time. But no one should assume why and what it was satisfying in you. Did you see that when you actually were now in it, that you were going to get out of it what you wanted to get out of it? And can you describe why? Like what you were looking for out of the experience?
Yeah, I think I got out of it what I wanted, and like so much more, like more than I could have imagined. The relationships that, last to this day, the people that you marched with and people you teach with, excuse me, and getting to still have like a career in this like drumline thing. When I first started drumming, or when I first decided I wanted to make devs, is, more than I could have ever asked for. And the things that I knew that I wanted out of it also were very fulfilled, as far as performing at that high of a level with other people who wanted the same thing, wanted, to have as great of performance as possible. And yeah, the learning aspect too. Like, yeah, I think it's maybe the thing that people who haven't been around the Blue Devils or didn't march Blue Devils don't know is it's like so much learning still happens there. It is not like everyone just shows up and is great and you don't learn anything. It's hard to state just how much learning happens there, and I think and I think like Blue Devils legacy is a byproduct of that. Like I feel like a lot of the staff members there really, really emphasize what can we do to best serve our students who it happens that they're at this insane level, but it's still a matter of like, they still need the right tools to succeed. And that, those are obviously different tools than teaching beginners or intermediate players. But for a lot of the teachers that I had at Blue Devils and teachers that I most admire, that's like the question that it comes back to is like, how am I serving my students? And it's not, just top down. It's not just rote, memorization or like brute force learning or repetition or anything like that. It's a very active and engaged process between teachers and students.
They're not afraid to do the deep dive
Yeah.
on anything.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I was just going to ask. So you marched Blue Devils 2014, 2015, 2016. You took 2017 off, correct?
I did.
Then you go back for 2018, and did you march 2019 as well?
Yep, that was my job.
So okay, you marched all those years. What was the difference from that first year you ended up marching Blue Devils to the last year? Mm-hmm. Did anything change through the years as far as playing wise, technique wise, anything other than the drums?
Yeah. The first thing I thought of was more of a mindset thing, which was like the first year I was at Blue Devils, it was like rose colored glasses, like everything is amazing and magical. And like the first time I got to, be on the other side of a system blue camp, and the first time like winning shows, and like the first time playing at that high of a level. And so it was all, every single time it was new to me, and it was like amazing. And 2014 was the fastest summer of my life too. Like it just truly was like, especially after the season at Academy, where we physically were worked way harder, to Blue Devils, it's like member care is a high priority. Sleep is a high priority, and we're not doing a lot of reps of anything per se. Like, we're doing like an amount that is legible in your brain probably most of the time. And so going from the one experience to the other, that summer just felt like magical. I felt like it was like living the dream.
Living the dream, yeah.
Literally. And other people like Nick Arcee has talked about this when we were members too, is like when you come back as a vet, like year after year after year, it becomes like not new anymore. And it's easy to not be grateful for it anymore, because it's what's coming up, the arc of the season, what it feels like to do the California tour, what it feels like to tour in the Midwest and like do these shows and do the lot. And it becomes like a grind, because it's the same thing over and over. So by the time that was like in 2016, I just got super, super burnt out. And
is that what led to taking 2017 off?
Yeah. I just felt like I had like done everything, and then it was just hard. And I was like, am I getting out as much out of this as I was before? In retrospect, like it was my attitude that was like preventing me from getting as much out of it as I could have.
Probably you needed to go through that.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody can just say, this is the way you need to think.
Right.
You need to have those moments.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And taking 2017 off, really, really deeply regretting it. And I almost had a chance to fill in a spot in 2017, and then it didn't happen. That like put everything into perspective for me. So then I was like, I do need to keep marching. I need to march my last 2 years. And so then 18 and 19, I came back with like feeling fresh and grateful, and it was still like a grind, and I knew what to expect, what the arc of the season feels like, but I had that like the memory of this is so much better than the alternative of not marching, and being section leader in 18 and 19. I think that was like maybe that's was maybe one of the big differences was 14 through 16. I felt like the young person still in the group, and then 18 to 19, I felt like more of a leader. I was section leader in the drumline and took on more of the responsibility, or it was like the proportion of people who were younger than me versus older than me was topsy-turvy. And so getting to help everyone who was younger than me have the same experience that I had.
That's what I was going to kind of ask too is, but it sounds like you already answered. I was going to ask, by the end, were you like ready for it to be over? But it seems like that break in 2017 helped, so that wasn't that feeling in 2019, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've had friends who marched like 7 years straight, and by the time of their age out, they're really, really ready for it to be over, mentally exhausted, burnt out, physically exhausted. So I think it was good for me that I took the year off, because and 2019 was probably my second fastest summer. Like, that also was just filled with fun and like joy at all of the things happening. Also, I think like the fact that it's the last time you're allowed to do it makes it that much sweeter. And yeah, I felt like, just my approach that season was like trying to do as much as I could for the group, for everyone else in the group, and for us to succeed, scores wise and everything, but also like, what's my legacy as far as what am I giving back to the group that's going to continue on after I'm gone.
Yeah. And that's a really important thing. I something that like I've had students want to march Blue Devils, and then eventually they make it. And the moment that they make it, the moment they say like, I got the contract and stuff, the first thing I tell them is welcome to the family. Second thing I tell them is, now it's your turn. Because they, just like you, so many people have wanted, and this is not just a Blue Devils thing. This is in every core thing. Mm-hmm. You spend so much time inspired by people. You're on this side of it, on the audience side of it, and then in a flash, right, that whole thing gets flipped. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you're now you're no longer the young, like, phenom showing up to the System Blue camps. You're on the other side, and you're seeing, these young, basically almost maybe the next you coming up. How did you feel that sort of shift? Because I think for you, more than a lot of people, you were seen as so like the young pup who had been able to do so much so early, right? But Father Time, right? Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit? About that sort of, where all of a sudden the poles just shift, and you are now on the other side of where you had been for so long.
Yeah, I think it was slow, the realization that I was like on the other side of it. Even like my first few years marching, I was obviously in the drumline, but I was the young pup, like you said. But definitely when I made the group, I had the sense like I'm now like responsible for not only myself, but for like I represent a group of people, and that can applies to any drum corps or anything really. Like when you're in community with people, you're not taking responsibility. Your actions are not just your own, right? They like affect everyone around you. So like the way we conducted ourselves, and I think many groups talk about this. It's like the way you conduct yourself, you're like an ambassador of your group, right? And your actions won't just be remembered as a reflection of you, but of like the community that you're in, the group of people that you're with. So definitely when I was section leader, it was just like slowly over the years, I had a greater and greater sense of that. And then becoming section leader, I was like, okay, I am truly responsible, now, not just in like the way that I conduct myself, but also the way that I lead the drumline. That affects everyone, and how we place, how we're doing competitively, how we're handling the season, all that stuff.
Was there anybody that you took your cues from on how to do that? Like, who was? I know like Sean Clark was section leader for a little while. Yeah. He wasn't, but he was entering the line when you were like right when What was his first year?
His first year was 13.
Right.
So he was a vet when I came in, but was a little younger.
So who was section leader your first year?
My first year was Brandon Godalier.
Right.
He was section leader. And then Sean was after him, 15. So Sean was 15, 16, 17.
Did you take your cues from those guys, or were there other people that you were like, I really, even though they're not a designated leader, they have leadership qualities?
Yeah. Definitely. Brandon and Sean were both great. Like they both led through example and like in a collaborative way. It was not like I'm the section leader, therefore I'm the best and I'm going to tell everyone what to do. It was like, what if we do this? Like, does this feel good? Are you guys cool with this? And, whenever it was appropriate, like for us to like get to talk about things, that was very, very important. And I think that's like kind of only like natural at that high of a level is like everyone can hang, everyone's opinions are very valid. And so it's like, it like only makes sense to hear what everyone's opinions are when we have time to do that. And then like, sometimes the section leader will make a call like in a spur of the moment thing, but there's like a level of trust that I think is established by that. And I try to take that. Obviously I tried to do that when I was section leader too. I also heard that about Henry Gillard. Like I marched with Henry in 14. And then I think Andrew Manzanares told me that was his favorite thing about Henry as a section leader RCC is when things would come up like, oh, how are we going to play this? He would ask like, what do you guys want to do? And the I think sense of like autonomy and ownership that people get from that is totally like invaluable and makes people, buy in and want to like succeed as a group even more. So that was definitely something that I tried to have as part of my like arsenal of ways that I was being a leader.
What I love about that is I think people from the outside wouldn't even know that those discussions happen. Mm-hmm. They would just be like, no, you just play the way they tell you to play, right? But at that level, there's choices, and the fact that everybody wants to do it, feels good about it, like that informs the execution, like what execution level you guys are able to get to.
What are some tips you could give somebody going into a leadership position as far as being section leader of a drumline? What would you tell them? What have you learned that you could tell them to be successful?
Yeah, I think my high school marching band that I was in and that I teach to this day does a really good job of like leadership. They do leadership clinics. They have a lot of meetings with the section leaders and they have like a very robust student staff, and it's kind of emphasizing all these same points of like this is like a service role, right? This is not like just a title. This is something that you're taking on more responsibility and accountability to help everyone else rather than like to be above everyone else. Sorry, can you say the question one more time?
What tips can you give somebody going into a leadership position as far as being the section leader that you've learned to help them be successful in the job of center snare, drumline section leader at all levels?
Yeah. I think at all levels, the trust is paramount. And so, I think a lot of things just come down to being a good person. And for me in like a band setting or a drumline setting, a lot of it is like meeting people where they're at, understanding where people are coming from. And then that can inform how you're interacting with them, how you're trying to lead them, like how you're telling them to do things or asking them to do things or trying to help give some feedback. Does that come from a place of like service and wanting the best for others or, like the best experience for others? Or does that come from a place of like wanting to dictate, wanting to tell others what to do, wanting to feel like more important? So yeah, I think that's like a good question to consider is like, where are you coming from? Like, why are you in your leadership position, and why like the people in your section or people who you're leading, why are they there as well? It could be for a different reason. And especially like high school marching band, the amount of like the amount of interest that people have in band can be very wide. Like there's people who, will do high school band for 1 year and then they're like, I'm cool. And you still need to serve those students the same way as the people who are like, band is my thing. I'm going to go on and do drum corps. I'm going to do all this stuff. So yeah, like finding ways to serve everyone in spite of all their differences, where they're coming from background wise,
That's a good life lesson.
Yeah.
I think that, it's kind of
For
general,
sure.
but I think, in beginner settings, and then, but even at the blue doubles, it's like, we're still like coaching the individual. It's not like we're trying to force everyone to be the same person.
Were you, it's kind of stupid question, but sometimes I ask stupid questions. Were you good at it? Like even that first year, did you make mistakes? Were you like, oh, I handled that wrong? Or was it pretty smooth?
I think I learned a lot as I went, and I think in general, I'm not a very confrontational person, and I don't feel like I need to take charge of things. I'm totally okay with other people deciding things or deciding things as a group. And actually, I like often I'll feel more comfortable if I know that everyone is cool with something rather than like I have to make a decision single-handedly. And I think I think in 2018 I was a little easygoing, and I knew,
Were you too easygoing?
Maybe,
Were there
so.
moments when they kind of needed you to?
Yeah, maybe so. I think, especially like early in the season, like when we were like learning our music, there are just times where it's like everyone's breaking. Like, I think that was one of the first years where we were looking at our phones more than looking at printed music, and I was like, this is not good. And like everyone, it's like just all this stuff, and I think I wanted to be, maybe like more just friends with everyone and like everyone to have a good time than like also holding everyone accountable and what are our responsibilities and like reminding people and trying to assess whether like we're living up to our responsibilities or not.
It can be an uncomfortable feeling to step into a role. You have your friends, but now you have to be like accountable for your friends and to tell them in a way like, hey, get your stuff together without being overbearing. But once you learn to balance that, it becomes easier. What I want to ask is, 2014, you guys win. Your first year, your last year, 2019, you guys win. Not only do you guys win, but finals night, you guys win high percussion for the night. How did that fit? Was that like rewarding for you winning high drums that on finals night?
Definitely. And yeah, I think people who've been in Blue Doubles the last 10 or 15 years probably say this too, but like a lot of the core's focus is on winning overall. It's like the winning the caption awards is a byproduct of everyone doing their job.
But sometimes that job requires, like winning full core requires you winning the caption.
Sometimes, yeah. And
because that's what put you guys over the edge that year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
a lot of people point to that.
Yes. And I think 2019 also was like the best the core ever got along that I marched. Like everyone was very friendly and kind to each other, and people were friends who were not in the same section at all. Like, yeah. And it was like a dream age out for me. And I felt like I was friends with everyone in the group. And I feel like that is also part of it is like, we knew we were all in it together. Like if the core is going to win, like we need to all be on the same page and like ready to put in the work and accountable to each other. Not just the percussion section and like, oh, the brass is getting fourth. Like what, like there was none of that. It was like, we're all doing it together. And if we want the same end result of winning, like we all have to just do our thing and do it together.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel like you're better drumming with drumsticks or with tap shoes on your hands?
The tap shoes, we got better at that throughout the season. But it was certainly funny, and I'm probably better with drumsticks.
How did that go down when they told you guys, oh, hey, we're going to have you guys drum with tap shoes? Was there any pushback on that?
There was, we were like unsure if it was cool for a while, but yeah, we definitely learned over the years to trust the process and trust like Scott and then like everyone on the design staff's vision for the shows, because they usually turned out good.
Do you feel like the whole drum staff was bought in on that too, or
I don't know,
or did they just put up a front?
I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say. But I think once it came to fruition, like with the platforms, like the way that they were like kind of modular and like we come out from behind them and we're doing this whole thing, and like the violin solo at the same time, and the front ensemble is playing all this crazy stuff too. Like once it came to life, it was like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool.
Was that hard to clean?
A little bit. Just the articulation with the shoes. They had like a little metal piece on the bottom, and then we had handles inside. Like they were like, what's the easiest way to do it? And so we like tried, stuffing our whole hand into the shoe. That sucked. And so they like screwed in handles, and that made it way easier to feel like actual drumming. Yeah, it wasn't too hard, and we actually there were more than a handful of like percussion ensembles where it was like a really hot day. It's like, got through the morning block, got through Viz block, and then we get to like percussion ensemble, and they're like, set up the shoes, and we're like, yes, like we can just take the drums off, like hang out, like no drums on, like just it was like a little easier on the body. But it was like, yeah, it was still like, okay, it has to be good still. So yeah, we spent our time on it.
Who do you know whose idea that was?
I think it was probably Scott's.
Okay. Yeah, because it's funny, the like that part reminded me, like when I marched Scott's first year back, we had what we called the Formica feature.
Yeah, was that 94?
94,
yeah.
and that was based off of flamenco.
Yeah.
And so like there was a little bit of that, like, oh, is there a flamenco thing?
I think that was part of the intention. Yeah.
Do you guys think maybe Scott secretly wishes he was a dancer instead of a percussionist?
Probably.
Subtle hints. This is his way of scratching that itch.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So Brandon, when you started with Blue Devils, you guys were on Pearls.
Beautiful Pearl drums.
Yeah. Then you went to the System Blue, which are great drums, and then
What year was that? Was that in 16? Were you still on?
No, 16 was the year that we switched.
So you go from Pearls to the System Blue, and then when you taught Blue Devils, you were on the Ludwig. So you got 3 different drum companies. Mm-hmm. Over the years, I want to say in the 70s and 80s, Blue Devils used Ludwigs. Up through 85, the famous, not famous, but the
Infamous.
Fire. They lost their drums. They get a new set for finals. Then Ludwig gives them a bill for the drums, and then the next year they go to Yamaha. So from Ludwig they go to Yamaha. Yamaha they go to, is it Dynasty?
Dynasty.
And then to the Pearls, correct? So for the both of you, which drums did the Blue Devils sound the best on? In your opinions?
That's tough. Well, my bias and knowledge is more towards recent years and the recent style of marching drums.
That's fine.
And yeah, so I would have to say Pearl. That's just for me. And yeah, but I like, I've seen many videos from like 70s and 80s when they were on the Mylar heads and on the different drums back then. But yeah, I think I was maybe not as in tune, not as attuned, not having been there to like, what does a Mylar Yamaha sound like versus a Mylar Premier drum or like all the other companies back then?
Any particular year of the Pearl drums you like the sound more than any other?
I thought 11 and 12 I thought were like awesome. The drums just really sang. And then 14 we like took them to the max. I was telling you guys earlier, right? The top heads were so high and articulate. They still sounded awesome, but it was just so hard to play on. And then I thought 15 was like a great balance from like the coming back down a little bit as far as a little more reasonable tuning. And I thought the drums still like had a lot of resonance to them.
What about you, George?
The correct answer is is Yamaha of the 90s, brushed chrome finish. Oh my goodness!
So you're talking like 90 Blue Devils.
90 Blue Devils.
Yeah.
That was I mean,
Tommy.
Yes. Tommy, and just like you were talking about, every night on tour during the early part of tour, seeing that live.
Which I'm jealous because I didn't march drum corps in 1990, but you did.
Yeah.
And you got to see the Blue Devils a lot that year.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I'll also go with, the 90s era Yamaha. But I do, second choice, probably the Pearl era. But my all-time favorite, 1992 Blue Devils, the black piano lacquer. It's like extra, there were like extra layers of wood.
Yeah.
And just something about that flam head on a wood Yamaha drum, the sound was just so good. And then like the lugs itself, they were like arced out to help with the tension. So those drums lasted all year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you know,
When did Blue Devil switch to Kevlar?
88.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 87 they were still on Mylar.
Phew, that 88.
That
line.
88 line, oh my god, it's just so buttery. Maybe it's because they still played kind of heavy for the Mylar.
But it was just like, I mean, it started with the like on the cymbals,
Yeah.
and then coming off of them,
Yeah.
like, and just hearing those crispy notes.
And you talk about articulate sounding drums. That 88 line is just. There's some good audio tapes out there of it too.
Yeah.
But I guess probably with that sound, there might have been some attitudes in that line. Now we won't get into it, but yeah.
but I will say the pearl sound of
Yeah.
your era was fantastic. Like the approach, the touch, like all of it was being done at such a high level. It's like, yes, that's the way those drums are supposed to sound. What was it like? Okay, as a performer, having to switch, right? I mean, did you have to change things, like literally fundamentally about what you guys were doing?
When we changed drums?
Yeah, like the sound was different. Obviously,
Yeah.
Did they feel different?
Feel was not super different. We were excited because the System Blue drums were a lot lighter. So that was like, a load off, literally. But they were definitely a lot less resonant than a wood shell drum, or like a wood shell drum with the bearing edge touching a head. Yeah, because on the System Blue drums, both sides of the shell were carbon fiber hoops, so that the head was just touching the carbon fiber.
And we're talking like first generation system.
Yeah.
drums.
Yeah. Very first prototypes. And yeah, that made listening way harder, way harder. Like in the Pearl, in the lines where we were marching pearls, I feel like there was a distinct feeling. It was like almost like an amplified resonance when everyone's playing together. Like this is prime clean. And then from there you can hear the distortions. You can hear when people are out of the sound, if it's over there or if it was like right here. And with the System Blue drums, you did not have that. You did not have that feeling of like the security of everyone is clean, the
That's
resonance is amplified.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
So it was like shooting a little more blind. And there were shows where I remember our San Antonio show, we got 6th in drums. And I remember me and the person I stood next to, we thought the show was awesome. We were also in the Alamo Dome where the resonance is weird. Things kind of like die off very quickly. Yeah. You just hear like the kind of the attack sound, and you can't hear much around you, or you just hear weird resonances around. And so me and the person next to, we were on the far end, but we thought that was an awesome show. We thought like we couldn't hear anything. We couldn't hear any dirt. And then the people in the center were like, no, that was not it. And we got 6th. Wow. Yeah. So it was frustrating a little bit.
You talked about those 2014 drums being reefed, and now it's 2025. And for me, I personally feel that snare drum tuning has gotten low. Is that just me, or have you noticed that as well? Is lower? Is it a more warm sound you think people are going for, or is it? I don't know, George. You're kind of the snare expert, and you taught this last year.
Yeah. What I would say is this sort of gets into like, what are people going for, right? So when I marched, our snare drum tuning was entirely ego driven. Like the biggest mistake our staff ever did was
give you guys a drum key.
was that Yamaha had just developed the spin keys, the ones that exist now, and because we had won the previous year, we all got them for my age out, and so we were constantly cranking those drums. So that was an ego thing, right? But how different groups tune their drums are for all different reasons, and like what they're trying to highlight. Are they trying to compensate for deficiencies? Are they trying to highlight excellence? Or is it none of that, and it's just about how things sit in the soundscape?
Yeah.
What is your you teach a lot of groups now. Where do you like things to sit? And do you have an opinion just not just about snares, but about where the tenors sit and where the basses sit and all of that stuff?
Yeah, not well formulated enough to where I would know like the pitches. I know like lots of bass drummers have a specific chord that they tune to, and then tenors, similar thing. But it's one of those things. The more you listen to bands and drum corps, especially like outside or sitting in the box or from the stands, you get a better sense of, okay, when it sounds like this up front, like 10 feet away from it, what does it sound like from the stands? And that's certainly like a big part of it. I think you're not just tuning for the player or for the audience member in the lot. You're tuning for how it sits in the ensemble mix. I think, for me, I think like I usually have the bottom head a little bit below a D. It's like somewhere between a C and a D, closer to a D. And I think when you get to a higher level, it's closer to a D. It's like even closer to a D. But I think in 14, I think we had it at a D, and we popped bottom heads often. So I usually go a little bit below that. And then the top head, I'll usually go to feel. I think that's what we did in 2015 too. And kind of since then, I think it's usually like the top head will tune to feel, where it like feels good for everyone and it feels
what does that mean?
same.
What does it mean to feel good?
Yeah, I think not too, when the head gets too high, it just feels like you're getting more shock maybe from the head. You're getting a really quick response. The head does not have as much give. So I feel like it's maybe giving you back more of the energy, and that doesn't feel great. It feels like playing on concrete is like the analogy that people often use. So when the head's a little bit softer than that, you get more give, right? It's like, I tell my students the drum head's like a trampoline, and when you throw the drum stick down at it, it like pushes the stick back up for you, and like the head also reverberates some, or like wiggles some. So yeah, that to me, and people have different opinions of what feels good. When you go super low, like you start to lose some rebound. So that's, and I've heard people argue like that's more challenging because you have less rebound to work with. But it certainly does like hide a lot of the articulation too. So
yeah.
Something
that I discovered this past summer with Blue Stars, like, and because you brought this up and it reminded me, there's how it sounds right in front of the drums, right? That is different from what so when the drums are on the field, right in front of them, that is different from what they sound like from the front sideline behind the pit speakers. And then that sounds different from what it sounds like in front of the pit speakers. And that sounds different from what it sounds like in the stands. So ideally, and so what we had to do, and I specifically remember days where I was literally running and like tuning, making a change and then sampling, and then making a change and then sampling constantly. And then asking like Andrew up in the box, like, is that it? Andrew and Greg, to see what they thought from like way up there, because I didn't want to run up there. The point is for it to sound great from all of those perspectives, because the judge, right, like could be right in front of them behind the pit, or they could be hearing them through the pit or through the horn line. But then there's also the music judge up top. And then you also have to satisfy the designers, right? It's like their vision, like what does it match what they think in their heads, So it's not as simple these days, modern times. It's not as simple as any one thing. You kind of have to satisfy all of those components.
What about technique? You got play with Murray Academy, and then the staff you had at 2013 in Academy, and then the Blue Devils. Have you kind of incorporated all that into what you teach? Do you have a preferred technique that you like?
And to that end, I think people would say, Brandon, your hands are somewhat unique to you. Your hands.
Danny said that when you guys had a podcast
right.
with him.
So, do you feel that? And is there a difference between like, this is the way I play versus teaching somebody from scratch, to answer Rob's question?
That is a great question. We could have a whole 3-hour talk on that.
Oh, with George here, I know we could.
Yeah.
100%. Oh wait, Danny's here.
Yeah.
Hey. Nick's ears were burning.
Yeah.
He decided to show up.
I think the concepts I teach and mechanics I teach are pretty universal, like things that Boston or Bluecoats or Vanguard or Blue Devils or any group would incorporate those concepts into their playing, and a lot of the difference is like the window dressing on top of that. So I think understanding how to utilize the rebound with, mechanically, and then via like how much energy you're putting into the drum versus allowing it to come back, is something that every drummer has to understand. And then from there, like you can manipulate and you can play heavier into the drum head, and like that can be your style, or you can play lighter on the head. And even mechanically, I like there's, people drum way different in the different groups. At least it looks different to us, and that doesn't make any of them wrong. When people have like patterns of deficiency, like, oh, when you play this specific thing, you often have this kind of mistake or issue happening, then like those kinds of things I would like point out as like check out this mechanic, or trying to find a mechanical reason for that. But I think in general, I try to teach just like the universal concepts, which stems from how are you rebounding the stick, how are you holding the stick, are your mechanics helping you or hurting you, and then from there, like I try not to overdo the mechanics too much until like problems arise. And it's like, as long as, and especially for younger students, I'll really focus on like, do they intellectually understand what they're going for? So like rhythms, like when you play a one and a, the space of the E has to still exist mathematically. And that and I find a lot of times with beginner groups, it's like once they understand the math of the rhythms, that solves many, many problems. And then instilling in them like a sense of like your mechanics have an effect on how you play things and they can cause issues, then they can start to solve problems for themselves of like, okay, I can kind of hear that this rhythm is weird. Maybe I should try something different, and then see what the result was of that.
Well, and that's incredibly insightful that, a lot of people would look at technique and mechanics as the end goal. You're talking about it more like it's a tool for this other thing
Totally.
that we're trying to achieve.
Yes.
And I think that's fantastic. I mean, that subtle difference changes a lot of things about how that information is received, what they're using it for, and all of that.
Are you guys more wrist and fingers, or are you guys more arm?
Well, here's an interesting thing, because I've said this a bunch, and I remember part of what I've absorbed over the years, continuously learning, like we talked about before. There was a podcast. It wasn't a podcast. It was I forget what it was for, but there was a thing, I think over COVID, that you and Nick did. It was a conversation between you guys. And the one thing I really took away from that conversation was you guys talking about how mechanically you moved in ways that Blue Devils needed, like that was particularly needed for the music you were being asked to play, and which is true for any group. So like being more wristy, being more arm, and all of that stuff does not exist by itself.
Yeah.
In a
Sure.
vacuum. It's well, is that what the music needs?
But what look do you prefer? What's cooler to you guys?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, look, you know what? Here's the other thing. No.
Clean rhythms are cool.
Clean always looks amazing. But here's what I'll say about that. Because I remember like Taha brought up, he had an issue with people saying we're gonna drum in a way that's natural, right? And he preferred to use a more specific term as like being more ergonomic, right? Something I've told students a bunch over the years is your body knows, right? If your body is fighting what you're trying to make it do, you should probably look at it, or like if somebody's asking you to do something and and your body is doing kind of like counter motions, like I call them like rescue motions or it's like it's trying to correct something that it innately just feels is wrong about what you're doing. So I think for a lot of people, we've all, when we watch somebody drum, you get a gut reaction of, yes, that looks like it feels great. Honestly, Rob, that's the answer to the question for me, right? It's not like super all wristy or super army. It looks like, man, that looks so comfortable, you know?
You know what I took from all that? George, you should be a politician, man. You answered that question without answering that question.
But that's the truth.
No, I liked your answer.
Well, but also here's what I'm going to say, and not to hijack
Come on,
the
man.
podcast.
No,
look,
there's a lot to be said about
Rob. Where do we live?
the wrist.
Rob,
Frank,
where do we live? We live in Southern California,
Southern California,
right? How many, quote unquote, from the outside, different ways are a lot of groups drumming?
Oh, there's a ton. There's a ton.
So as a teacher, you do have to, again, be like, well, what's underneath all of that? What are sort of those universal things? And I do think the one thing, that I like to stress that is true for all of it is it's not supposed to feel bad. Your body is not supposed to fight it, because not only are you going to be able to see it, you'll hear it. It's like when people slice and the stick and the bead travels on a loop. Well, you're responsible for the up part, but your body is responsible for correcting you and trying to get you back on plane for the down part. You're not thinking about it. Your body's doing it. It makes you tense. You can hear it, and it's all of that stuff. So I love it when you just like look at somebody's hands and you go like that, like their body is not interfering or trying to step in against their wishes.
Can I add an asterisk to your
Go
answer?
ahead.
I think sometimes people, when they watch someone play, though, just because the person playing makes it look comfortable does not mean it is comfortable. Right. And just because it looks like their body is moving ergonomically does not mean it's not work. Like it feels like work. And so I think that's like something that some guys in the dev snare line when I was there, like kind of like mistaking the forest for the trees, or just like what's the end goal, like. And so sometimes for them it was like, I want my hands to feel comfortable playing this 5/3 roll at 200 BPM. And it's like, well, it might not. And it's like, there's things that I have to play that my hands don't feel comfortable. Even like the first rep of triplet diddle of the day, like it doesn't feel great. But the goal is not for it to feel great. The goal is to play the correct rhythm,
Good rhythms.
make good sounds.
Good sounds. And also, not to go even further down the rabbit hole, there's a difference between what's comfortable and what you know. What you're used to.
Yes.
Right.
That all stems to how you were trained drumming coming up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like when you're in high school and you're completely overwhelmed and you're just trying to survive, you develop all these habits.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, what was super uncomfortable, like you get conditioned to it feeling comfortable, and then at some point somebody goes, "Why are you moving like that?" And you don't even know that you're doing it. So
I have one last question for you, Brandon, and then that's it for me. Not including any Blue Devil shows at all. If you can go back in March, one other line, one other show, what would it be?
Not including Blue Devils.
Not any Blue Devil stuff, because we already know you're the biggest Blue Devil homer that there is.
Yeah.
Or at least one of them.
For the core, Crown 13, like
it's a good show.
Yeah, everyone has nostalgia for like their first year marching, and getting to watch them every night was so amazing.
Because they came out and they did.
And to Cali,
I got to see them out here.
This side of the tour. Maybe like some of those early 2000s Cavaliers shows, for sure. Or for drumline, probably like Phantom 2010 or Phantom 08, or 06 or 07. Like just like
any of those
masterful.
Any
drum
of the
lines.
Rennick Phantom years.
Yeah, honestly, like just super, like just to get to that level of mastery or like cleanliness, like what that must feel like. And there, I think there's a trade off there. Like Dev's years, we were like really trying to go for it, like play all this hard stuff, and it's like, was it perfect at finals? Not quite. But some of those Rennick years, I feel like they were really, really hitting the ceiling.
You're teaching a lot now.
Mm-hmm.
We talked before. You have a bunch of schools that you're teaching. You're back in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
You taught a couple years at Devs,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say, and that was all interrupted by COVID, right? Because after you aged out, were you going to teach 2020?
No, I didn't. No, didn't have any specific plan. I think I was gonna teach the B Corps in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What it's interesting because like something I said to you right before, like kind of like before we started, was the people who get the opportunities to teach are often the people that are like these amazing performers. But being an amazing performer does not necessarily translate to being an effective teacher.
Correct.
What did were there any big lessons that you took away from the couple of years that you taught at Debs? And even now, like, going back and teaching a bunch of high schools, starting to write for them and teaching all different levels. What are some big lessons you've learned that maybe you didn't even see coming as a performer?
Yeah.
I mean, you saw a lot of teaching. You were the benefit of a lot of teachers, but now again, switching roles.
Yeah. While you were asking that question, I had to say also Vanguard 04 and Devs 97. Oh, you said no Devs. Vanguard 04.
I'll let 97 Dev slide.
That was a good line.
That was,
Yeah.
in my opinion, that's probably one of the best ever, if not the best ever, overall Devs line.
Yeah. So sorry, but back to, very thoughtful question. Yeah, teaching is a whole other skill from drumming. And just because you're good at something does not mean that you can communicate effectively how to do it. And I think something that is surprising for a lot of young people who march and love the activity, and then the next logical step is once you're not allowed to march anymore, you can teach a group. I think it's important for everyone to ask themselves like why they want to do that. And I've seen this a lot with my peers and people younger than me. And I haven't been teaching super long, so I'm still learning and have so much more to learn still. But from what I've noticed of people my age and younger when we go to teach is, what are our priorities, and is the priority serving your students? I think a lot of times people go into it thinking like, I want to be known for having a really good program, or like I want, you want to be the benefactor in some way of your teaching, which is a nice side effect of being a great teacher. But I think being a great teacher first and foremost comes from wanting to serve your students. And that might not mean the thing that you think it means. Like if you marched a drum corps, it doesn't mean you get to teach your high school students all the stuff you just learned in drum corps, right? It's like meeting people at their level where they're at. And, people come from different backgrounds. People, we talked about kids who kind of like band but are going to quit eventually, kids who really, really love it. Fostering all of those people's potential to have as fulfilling of an experience as possible, as educational of an experience as possible. And it took me, I feel like a couple years to really get that. And I feel like I didn't like teaching that much when I first started, but it just made sense as the next thing to do. And when I was in college, right, I started teaching high school band, and that it was just, this is the thing that people do when they're not marching drum corps or doing indoor, they teach high school bands. And I got to get my feet wet and like learn the ropes of that. And a lot of the realizations were those things. It's like every student is unique. Every student has unique learning needs. And how can I help them to fulfill those needs as a teacher? And it doesn't just come from the fact that I marched Blue Devils, right? Like just doing that is not enough. It takes a lot of reflection and willingness to learn. Like teaching is like learning things again. I feel like when you teach legatos, you have to learn legatos again. When you teach downstrokes and upstrokes, you have to learn them again. And you have to learn them in a way where you could communicate it in many ways for your many students who will need to hear it in different ways to get it. And that doesn't make your students wrong. And I think as a teacher, it's like your duty or your responsibility to try to do everything you can to help your students. And I see a lot of times teachers usually younger teachers who, it irks me when If a student is not doing something right, they think it's their student's fault, like they're choosing not to do it, rather than asking like, what can I do to help them to succeed better in this moment? And sometimes your students will choose not to do things that you want them to, and sometimes it is a matter of just asking them to do the thing that you asked them to do. But if you can ask yourself, like, why did that happen? A lot of times, like, the answer might be different than you think. And when, like, the more and more that you kind of test that, or the more and more you see different students and the issues you want to solve in their playing, you come to better conclusions about this might be a potential reason why this is happening to this student. So yeah, I think it comes back to, like, it's all learning and a willingness to learn about your students and for your students in order to better serve them. That is like, I think, really, really paramount. And that can be just as fulfilling as like playing yourself or like learning something yourself.
That's great. I kind of joked about it when we introduced you, but you had a pretty bright spotlight on you for the better part of a decade. You marched the season, one of your seasons, Clash of the Corps happened, right?
Yes.
And so you got to do a lot of, like, you got to meet The Rock. I remember, like, you doing a promo literally for that. You've had articles written about you. But now you're not teaching at Devs anymore. You're back in Arizona. The spotlight is a little bit less. Do you feel that? Like, I mean, because I think a lot of people don't know what it's like to have the lights shine that bright on you, and essentially to have a bunch of people who feel like so many people know of you, and they're like, they say Brandon online, and like so many people do that, yet so few, only a small percentage of those people actually know you. What about that? Do you feel the shift at all of like, okay, not as much attention anymore, and now you can operate without that? Is it better? Is it worse? What does it feel like?
It feels amazing. No, I don't think about it too much in that sense. I definitely don't post online as much as I used to. And yeah, the more I teach and the more I'm just, in community with friends and people who live in Tucson, whether they're in band or not, like in other spaces, like volunteering or other stuff like that, like just building in-person connections is so critical, and that cannot be like avoided. And so takes up more of my time and is very fulfilling. Like getting to be with a student one-on-one, doing like weekly lessons for years, or, them being in the drumline program and seeing them grow up. That can't be like replicated through just like online interaction or just like parasocial interaction, where it's like you just see someone and know of them through the internet rather than actually knowing them in person. So yeah, I'm really focused on like in-person connections and building community in Tucson. And that's honestly like, it's been a help to my career to like, be a good person and be someone that like the band booster president really trusts, right? They help me be able to get more money to like, to be able to afford things. Or like a band parent who works for the school district that I teach in, and they help me make sure that my invoices are getting filled, stuff like that. And those kinds of things can't just happen through like online presence or clout. Right. And that's maybe like another thing I would recommend to like young teachers too, is like just embed yourself in a community with other teachers, band directors, your students, like the people around the band program, like band parents. If you're there all the time and you're like, your students like you and you're giving your students a fulfilling experience, like their parents will love you, and their parents will like go to bat for you and help you. Like the band parents just want their kids to have a great time. So it's like all these people, like, yeah, I think marching band's kind of like a cool phenomenon because no one's doing it for the money. There's not really much money or any money to be had in it.
Yeah.
Especially volunteering their time, and students
Doing it for the love.
doing it for the
Yeah.
something that we all love. I actually read this amazing short story by Kurt Vonnegut the other day. It was very touching. It's about a band director and a kid who seems to have no direction in life and then joins the band. It's much more surprising than that. But the story ends with him saying, our goal, you could say, is like to make the world more beautiful than it was before. And I think that's like what people are just trying to do in band, is like making music, right? We do it because we love making music, and it's better doing it with people rather than just alone.
For the rest of your life, music, teaching, are there other things you want to do? Because right now it seems like from the conversations we had before that you're pretty entrenched in getting a lot of teaching done right now. A lot of high schools, and performing in some groups and stuff. Are you like, because you're at the age where you're literally laying the foundation for, here's what this is the rest of my life, is that the path forward for you, or are there other things on that aren't checked off on your list of things you'd like to experience? And
hard to say as far as like a checklist of other things I want to do, but I certainly have other things I enjoy spending my time doing. And I think I've stuck with music and stuck with teaching, because I love it, the activity, and enjoy it. But it's also a great outlet for working with people and building community connection that I think like a lot of normal jobs, like office jobs, might not afford that same opportunity. So I think anything that I do, I'm wanting to build community with people, whether that's through music or through sharing food, or solving problems, anything like that. So, and that's like how I spend my time outside of band, is like any, interests I have. Like I really like plants and, riding my bike and the city I live in, and making it, more livable for more people. Those things, that's like, they're all excuses to get together with people and talk and figure things out amongst a group of people. And that's what I love. And I feel like that kind of thing is what is going to save the world.
Well, that's a great place to end.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still stuck on the Clash of the Chords. I totally forgot about that show until you mentioned it. That's it must have been an experience.
It was an experience.
I have this, the one thing I will say, my hot take on Clash of the Chords, because I work in television and film, I have for a while. I have always said, I've gone on record as saying, I feel like that show missed the point of what
you could say that,
and also I find it amazing. That was the year that cadets, staff-wise, were having incredible meltdowns behind the scenes. Like a lot of, that was the year that right after that, a lot of that staff left and went to Boston, and other places. And none of that was seen. Showing groups just being successful the whole time and having a lot of fun does not make for a really compelling
television
and meaningful television.
Yeah.
I feel like there was an opportunity there, especially because we all know what it's like.
Yeah.
And you looked at that show and you were like, that's not what it's like. That's not all of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. George's take one time, he told me he wanted to see it with the chords that are barely making it down the road. Show us the struggle,
Yeah.
Give us something to drive us, you know.
Anything you need to promote, any companies you endorse, any bands you're in that people should come out and see.
I'm sponsored by Daddario. Should thank them. I don't do much or enough for them. But
you came on the Drum Corps Coffee Shop podcast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and shouted them out.
All the tens of our viewers will,
Yes. Yeah. But they help me out and, help me continue to perform and teach and do that stuff. Nothing else to promote. I mean, I gig around Tucson area. Usually post about those online. But yeah, I'm just happy to be here. It was great talking to you guys. You guys are very cool historians and great question askers.
Well, we
thank you.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's nice. I'm gonna start tearing up here, you know.
But I mean, I'm really glad you reached out, you know, because you were going to be in the area, and it was great to be able to do this in person.
Oh yeah.
And hopefully, you know, people that have listened to this, you know, or watched it will have gotten to know you a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I had FOMO from the Snare Talk video with
Oh yeah.
Nick and Danny and Connor. So
That video, that conversation could literally still be going on.
for sure.
Anything else?
That's it. Great
Well,
conversation.
Well, everybody, we're like we said at the beginning, at the end of fall, getting into the winter drumline season. So I'm sure we'll see you before that all gets going, and if not, we'll see you on the lot.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, everybody,
Thank you,
take
guys.
care. Yeah.